Here we go. Let's get started here. We're going to be started in 1 second. Just a few moments here. Broop, broop, broop. Got a couple things to set up. Da-na-na-na-na. Let's see. Here we go. Hey Scout, what's up, pal? Talking to my cats. Hey Scouts, you gotta go. You gotta go, bud. This is painting. This is the painting show, not the Scout show. So here we go. Let's get this nice and situated. This way? No, we want to come this way. Yes. Get nice and situated. All right. All right, continue on with this painting here. Continue on with it. And I just love when you're painting, you know, especially with oil paints, you paint over time and you just start to see like how colors build on top of the other. And just slowly it just creates this like this wonderful effect. And I'm gonna spray down some of my solution. I have a vinegar and a orange peel solution that I use to try to keep my cats away from my oil paints while I'm painting. Mainly because I use a lot of mineral spirits, and you don't want your cats to get into your mineral spirits and stuff. So my doors and windows are open to keep it nice and aerated in here. When you paint with oil paints, you really want to keep your environment. You really want to keep the air flowing in the environment, either have a lot of space or airflow. So we've got multiple doors open. It's summertime. It's hard for me to paint during the summer because the summer times the doors usually get pretty. It's usually hard to keep the doors open because it's so hot. So this is definitely something I have to work on. You know, it helps when it's cooler. Let's just put it that way. So, anyways, I just want to talk about an exciting thing that I got from Amazon Prime. I mean, I swear Amazon has totally helped to fuel my obsession with painting. By the way, they can see you on the camera right there, Kat. So it's absolutely fueled my obsession with painting because I could get amazing supplies shipped right to my door. I've been an Amazon Prime member for quite a long time, but you know, here's an interesting gift. I bought it for myself, but what I mean as a gift is, you know, sometimes you're constantly looking for a product. You're constantly looking for some paint, a certain type of paint, and it's really hard to find until one day Amazon just shows it to you and you're like, that's it, that's what I've been looking for. And for me, it's this tube of 200, not just one tube, but two tubes of 225 millimeter Georgian oil color. But more specifically, this is a titanium white color. And here's why this is so special to me. Because I use a lot of white paint. I've got this tube of white paint. I've got another tube of Gamblin white paint, which you can get from Amazon. I've got this tube of white paint, and I probably got another 1 or 2 tubes of white paint. But I use so much white paint that I almost feel like I can never get enough of it. And I use it for so many different purposes. Sometimes I want to use it to cover a canvas at the beginning to create a light color, and then sometimes I love to use it for details on the very top of the painting. And depending on how you want to use it, you can have so many uses, right? Either it's a very base use for the very base of the painting that maybe most people won't notice, or for the very tips to just add highlights to metals and parts of the eye and stuff like that. And I find white to be probably one of the most useful colors. But, you know, lots of great colors, lots of very useful colors. But here's what makes this pack so special to me. This pack of Georgian, and Georgian, this is a promo for you. This is what makes this pack of Georgian oil colors so valuable to me, is the fact that it's 2 fairly large tubes. Now, I don't paint. You can see this is an 18 by 24 canvas. this is like a medium size, you know, canvas that I would use, but I don't paint so big that I need like a huge tub of paint. I think the alternative, they have like a 500 milliliter tub, which is, you know, maybe, or even more, like, you know, more than double the amount of paint that fits into here. But each of these tubes is like the perfect size for me as far as using for how much I paint. And, you know, if it's too much, the big tubs, I feel like the paint dries a little too quickly. You know, you start to get layers of dry paint on top because you have to pop on and off the pack. And then, you know, there's individuals, which, you know, individuals are nice, but, you know, they're individuals. So when I find a pack like this that comes with two, and it's not even that this is my favorite color, it's not even that, like, I'm gonna, you know, use it all right away, but I use so much titanium white that it's just great to find like this perfect pack of two. Honestly, if it was a pack of three, I'd probably buy three, because, you know, when you have the tubes, you get to close it, and, you know, you keep the paint fairly dry inside. And I think if you have the tubs, I think the top layers will tend to dry. So because these are oil tubes, you know, they'll last for a very long time, and I don't have to worry about that. But I use so much white that, you know, yeah, we're gonna get through these at some point. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, Amazon delivery drivers and Amazon Prime, for shipping to these to me pretty much. I think it was one day. Well, yesterday was a shipping day, and then today. But, you know, sometimes I get it to my door the exact morning that I need it. So totally dependable if you're like, you know, if you're constantly you know, in need of new supplies and you want it delivered right to your door. So anyway, we're gonna put this away. Let's put this box somewhere. My cats like to play in the box, so, you know, it's great when your cats like to play in Amazon boxes. So let's go ahead and keep this white to the side. And again, like, depending on, you know, you're gonna want different qualities of the same paint. You're definitely gonna want different qualities of the same paint. Not saying that one of these qualities is better than the other, but, you know, sometimes, you know, these are both titanium whites, but sometimes, you know, you might get some and you're like, oh, you know what, I want to save this for the highlights, and I want to save this for, like, just spreading paint over a large area, but I'm going to paint over it anyway, so it doesn't really matter how much, right? So different things to consider whenever you consider a paint for all qualities. And you really, the only secret is to consider how you're going to use those paints. But let's get started painting. I've been talking so much about my love of Amazon Prime and the amazing opportunity that they've helped me to save time and get all my products whenever I need them. And, you know, not just that, but, like, not just saving me time, but, like, finding out that this was even a product available, and then putting that in front of me, these two tubes of white. I know that I might be more amazed at this. I might be overreacting to how amazing this is. Maybe this is like but, you know, that Amazon, however they figured out that this was a great tuber, Rowney, maybe Georgian, maybe they're the ones who, you know, really nailed it. But let's get started painting. We've been talking a little too much. I mean, I'm going to talk this whole time, but let's get painting. So I'm starting with, this is one of my favorite brushes. I need to get some more. I just found out that they actually sell these individually. But this is a Princeton Polytip. It's called a Princeton Catalyst. I just finally figured out that name. But look how worn out it is. I absolutely love this brush. It's a fairly smaller brush. I'll probably get a few sizes of this. But I absolutely love this brush because it's a synthetic brush. But it's a synthetic brush designed for oils. And although it's quite worn out, I love using it to cover, you know, small to mid-sized spaces. And what's great is, you know, because it's synthetic, it's not as delicate as some other oil paint fibers. What's up, Tariko? Thank you for jumping in. You know, if anyone has any questions, if anyone has any comments, feel free to share. This is live. Can you believe that? We're live. We are live and broadcasting to the entire universe right now, if the universe has access to these videos. But everyone in the universe sees this, can see this. All right, so it's Ryan. What's going on? Oh, Tarico's got a new song out right now about the about people taking over his elevator. Great song. Love it, Tarico. Check out his definitely check out his channel to see it if you can. But speaking of brushes, this is one of my favorite brushes. I need to get more sizes, but I love that it's synthetic and that you can like brush over areas. And I could be rough with this. The problem with some traditional brushes for oil is they're very delicate. Like let me just share an example right here. I love I love these brushes too. These are some of my favorites. This is a Rosemary Co Series 272. Now, what you'll see with this brush is that it's much more delicate. I don't know if y'all can tell, but you know the fibers are a bit more delicate. There's a little bit more spring into this, and you know these are thinner. These fibers feel a lot thinner, maybe more delicate. It's a badger hair, and it just feels like you know I have to be more delicate with this brush versus this brush until you know at some point eventually I always end up you know using my brush to the point that I can't anymore and you know save those. But this brush, you know, you have to be a little bit more delicate with. It spreads paint a little bit differently. But this brush I could be pretty rough with, and it helps with my rough painting style. But why don't we actually do some painting instead of talking, huh? Who actually likes hearing talk about paintbrushes and titanium white paint? Nobody likes hearing about that. Everybody just wants to see how stuff is created, right? So let's go. I feel like as far as our figure here goes, we got a lot of good things going on, and you know this arm is looking okay. We've got some good details on this arm. I feel like the arm, let me see if I can increase the width of the arm just a little bit to make it feel more natural. Because this arm seems to be very dominant, you know, just right here in the front. So we're gonna try to find a good color that rounds out this arm toward the bottom. So let's grab some of our blue. We're gonna find burnt sienna. So ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is like a reddish brown, and it gives you a reddish brown color. Can you believe that? A reddish brown color. So we're just gonna add this down into here, help to add some of the vibrance. This definitely adds a lot more vibrance to what's happening here. So you know, I just got to be cognizant of that when I'm bringing the paint back up. And at some point, you know, I will improve, but I really just want to get the shape of the arm right here. And I just love this brush, so I'm just going to keep using this, and we'll build up on a color on top of that. So this is a very dense color now compared to the rest of the area, but you know, we will find this shape here. So we're gonna go like this and just bring this in, and then let's go. You know what, we could probably use this in other areas too, like around her leg to add, you know, a little bit more of like a vibrant and contrast between various parts of her body. And Azraya, did I say hi to Azraya? Yeah, one arm tone more, didn't notice until I pointed out. Well, you know what? I mean, there is different. If I'm looking at the photo, there are totally different tones on her arms. I think it's just the lighting, the way the lighting is like, you know, happening on her arm. But yeah, I mean, you know, different tones. It's whatever. I think there's a lot of. It really is. I mean, there are totally different tones along her arms. So we're gonna try to capture that, but let's go like this. We'll even add some of this to round out her arm a little as we add in some shadow. So just gently brushing, you know. I'm not getting too rough with this oil paint, just to add a little bit of so what this will do is add a little bit of shape and form into her arm, because I have these really light values in the center here where her arm is like where the light's kind of shining down. And then, you know, in this other area here, we'll have some, you know, in the crease of the elbow, we'll have some transition of light and some of the formal transitions along her arm. And this is definitely a little too much, so let's see how we can tone that down a little bit. This is definitely way more than it should be. So we're going to tone that down. How do we tone that down? Let's use some titanium white. Why not? So we're going to use titanium white with some blush color, like a titanium white with some blush, because I know that the color here is already quite dense with paint. So what I need to do is I need to use a really bright color to blend it in. And it's different, right? Like if I was painting over this and it was, if it was dry, I would use a different strategy. But because this is wet paint and I know it's going to affect the paint that's on top, I need to keep that in mind, and I need to brush using this knowledge that it's wet. And that's kind of the difference between, does this hand look natural? I don't know. But we're going to go with it. I'm just trying to figure out how I can make this hand feel a bit more natural. But anyway. Looks natural, right? Okay. I'll have to mess with this. I mean, even this side, we'll go with it. So let's bring in a little bit of a yellow ochre into this area that we've just blended. Give it some more color there. Body build tone. Oh, body build tone. Puerto Rican. That's a Puerto Rican baby. Is that huh? What do you say, Kat? Yeah, I think he's the baby. I think she's half Italian, so it's pretty close, right? Half Italian, half Nigerian. I think that's close. So, is that close to Puerto Rican? I don't know. I can't go into too many details because it's their private, personal info. But get that off. Get this. And ultimately, today's goal is really just to keep on building layers on layers, and just finding a natural look. And this arm is going to bother me quite a lot, but let's figure this out. Let's see if we could get some purple into this area and kind of carve it away here. But here we go. Very well. Very well. Oh, this is an actual portrait. Yeah. This is. Yeah. This is a real, these are technically real people. And when I say technically, what I mean is these are based on real people. And technically in the sense of, any painting is going to be a representation of somebody, not necessarily if you were to see them in person compared to the painting, you might be like, they look a little different. But that's isn't that the part of the beauty of painting is finding those subtle differences between person and whatever. So here we go. We're gonna add some more color toward the top of her arm here, just to blend in some shadow. And you know, as the form goes around, there's going to be more light striking from the top, obviously. But I just got to figure out this arm. This arm is like, is she just like hovering over the baby with both these hands, or I gotta figure it out. What do I do? It really look weird. Or maybe I just like make them go off the screen. Might have to readjust the arm again and just make them go off the screen. I don't know. Let's repaint this. Let's see what we could do about repainting the arm and like making it go this way. But it still has to cross over his leg behind his arm, but let's maybe see. Does that look better? I'm trying to see how this will look if we go this way. That look better? You know, that might. Let's play with this. Do I do paintings of some sort of like real model person in the room? You know what? I've definitely done real people in the room, but not often, because it's like, you know, if I go to a live model painting place, which I've done before, I used to do it a lot more when I was first getting started, but you know, sometimes it just takes a long time to get all my stuff reset up. So it's better for me to just like paint from home, because you know, if I just paint from home, I know for sure that I'm going to paint. But if I know I have to get set up, it kind of, you know, I try to make it as easy for myself to paint as possible. And sometimes that means taking the easy way out and not forcing myself to like go somewhere to paint. And occasionally, you know, I'll go outdoors and I'll take my easel and I'll like go somewhere. I'll go somewhere with it, but I think that arm looks a little bit more natural, right? Let's see if I can. But yeah, definitely, I'd highly recommend, if you can, to hire or go find places to paint. Go outdoors and do all that. But again, like, I think the trick, ultimately, you gotta trick yourself sometimes to like motivate yourself to do things, right? Like running, exercise. You know, the way to get yourself to trick yourself into exercise is having your clothes ready. That's like one simple trick to tricking yourself to exercise, is just having some clothes ready. You know, having an outfit ready and not giving yourself an opportunity to make an excuse to not work out. So similar to painting, I love just having a setup ready on this easel here, and you know, my setup is ready. I don't need to do anything except for just walking to this. I do have to set up the camera because I've committed myself to becoming an art streamer, but you know, once I do this, it's like just makes it easy. Gotta make things easy for yourself. Can't make it too hard, can't add too many steps. And you know, definitely for a beginner, and I'm always gonna be a beginner, but I think for a beginner, like someone who's never painted before is what I mean, or like maybe someone who's been painting for like a month and they wanna, you know, keep motivated. It does help to get into a room with people and, you know, have that inspiration. And let me see, does this look better if I paint over this? I'm just kind of like, does it feel more natural? Yeah, it kind of feels more natural, like her arm. Like I need a, you know, the color can improve, but I've painted this arm over a couple times, but I think this will feel more natural in the long run. So let's stick with that. I'm just gonna add a lot of deep purple into this space here. But yeah, I mean, you know, you gotta, that's like one thing about motivation is making things easy for yourself. And there we go. So this arm, I could probably update just a little bit more, but I think we're in a good space now where it looks kind of normal. Maybe a little bit off, but mostly better than where we were. This is definitely going to require some, you know, more painting. Getting this arm just right is going to be pretty important. So let me see. I'm trying to create the form of the arm here more naturally, because when an arm kind of like curves, it doesn't create like an angle. I mean, it will create an angle, but hey, Kat, can you bend your arm for me? Let me see your arm real quick. Bend your arm like this, like down. Can you turn toward me? Toward me. Turn. You rotate towards me. All right, now put your arm like down. Yeah. Okay. This is a little bit of an angle. All right. See, that's why it's good to have a model. Always handy. AKA Kat, my girl. She's always ready to put on her modeling face.
Lend an arm.
All right, so you know what? I'm gonna paint over this part of the arm at some point, but I think for now, you know, as long as we got the shape, it's gonna still need some modification and, you know, some color adjustments to make the highlight better. But let me see if I can do that right now. Just add some highlight along the top here. And then eventually, you know, we'll go ahead and layer by layer, this will all start to make sense. But for now, just, you know, building up on this. Allowing the light to reflect on the central part of the arm, while letting the shape of the arm curve and go around. So that's what we're figuring out here. Still got to build up into it. Right, here we go. Okay. I think that looks okay. I think the only, if I was to be like super critical, I think if I was to even just be normally critical, I would just say that the arms look a little not long enough. But you know what? We'll just chalk it up to the angle, the foreshortening and angle of the painting. And since we've got this color here, we've got like a light brown. I think we can use it into some of this other space here. We can blend it into this section here and try to create, you know, in an effort to create a lot more vibrance, color vibrancy along different parts of her body. And let's see, we can probably bring this into here too. We're gonna, you know, give a little bit more, I think the Madame Y, we're going to call her Madame Y, has more variations of, you know, splashes of color on her face, like these blues, some purple, pinks, reds, all different. And I feel like I can definitely work if you make things look too different, I think it'll look like a different artist. So I want to try to like capture, you know, the various hues available on the baby. So that's going to be the challenge here. But also, you know, trying to keep the skin, you know, make the baby's body look like it's like baby-like, you know, cute and baby-like. So that'll be part of it. That's what we're working on now. And I think some of it's just going to have to come from creating some of this curvature around the arm. Just adding some light, some color variation, hue variation here. Let's see. And here we go. So, don't want to make it too... Oh, wait. Do I hang these art? Yeah, my bird. Do I hang this? No, I actually don't hang them all over my place. I only have a few of my paintings hanging, like 5 or 6. To be honest, sometimes I'm just like too lazy to get them ready to hang. And usually the only thing that motivates me is getting them ready for a show. Like if I have a show coming up, then I'll get all like the supplies for like frames and getting frames and like the hooks to go into the back of the painting and all those things. But I usually won't do that until I have like a show. But I do have a couple paintings hanging up in my apartment. Not too many, but a couple, just enough. And just capturing some of the variety of the baby's cheeks here, or the arms. I'm gonna come into here and let's just blend in around. Let's create some shape around, create some softness. Some shape around here, give it some roundness. And all I'm doing is just, you know, just making it look like that there's like a curve. So here we go. We'll go into here and see how we can bring this up. Go like this, round this out, round this down. So help just these like little subtle shading will like help you to create like this just like a round and like a roundness, right? Like every human body has shape, has like roundness to it, right? Like my arm is not flat, it curves, and you can see exactly how it works, right? Like you can see on my arm how there's this light shining right here, and all that does is that's a reflection of the light. And then as it goes around my arm, it changes shades, right? So it becomes more like yellow, red here, yellow here, and then there's some light reflecting on this side. I don't know if y'all can see it, but on here, this side's like pretty much in shadow, right? Like right along the tip down here. And that's all you're trying to capture is just the fact that your arms are almost like a cylinder. And if you know where the light is shining, which is pretty much like down this part of her arm, then you could start to like figure out how to blend in the colors around the body. And right now, all I'm doing is I'm just using a, this is like my favorite brush. This is probably this brush probably isn't the ideal brush for this activity. But I find this brush to be so versatile that I use it for pretty much almost like everything. Because it gives me enough like roughness that I can kind of like, you know, if there's paint right here that's wet, I can kind of like scrape it away. Not scrape, but like, you know, scrape it in a blending way while also laying it on this other color. And then, you know, some colors are just too, some brushes are just too soft, and you can't really create the soft edges that you would want. Or it creates too soft, it's too soft for like, you know, pushing various colors around. Whereas this brush just does such a great job, and I can really, you know, blend and add variety of color all around, add a variety of hues all around to just make it more vibrant in general. Now, again, this arm needs some work. We're going to be working on it later. But I got to let the paint dry there. The paint has to dry a little bit. I'm not going to touch the face. I think her face is in a good spot. You know, there's good areas, and then, you know, there's expressive areas, I feel. And, you know, maybe the ear, actually. I probably need to add some shadow into the side of her ear here, which I can do later. And maybe even like right here, but honestly, do I really need that? You know, I probably could add some shadow right underneath these folds here, just to signify that, you know, that's where it meets her head. Otherwise, it kind of like disappears and looks kind of hollow. You know, it just looks like, oh, I can see through her forehead, right? So, and that's not always a bad thing. I mean, it depends. But if you want to like make it look more solid, like a physical, like solid object, I think I do need to add in, you know, in this area, right along the corners here, where the color seems to, you know, where it goes underneath, and the light can't get into there. So you gotta modify, right? But anyway, ooh, there's some pink here. See, so I just added a little bit of pink, but you know what's great is I can just kind of blend it out and just allow it to just come down and let the colors just blend with this brush. And so that's what we're doing. And I'm just gonna keep working this. We're just be working this for I don't know how long I'll be working tonight. Probably a couple of hours, at least a couple of hours. Let me see how this is looking. This part of the elbow crease, maybe a little bit too dark. So I want to blend it down a little bit with our lighter shade. I don't want it to be too distinct, so just blending it a little bit to make it disappear. Just so subtle, right? Just this little subtle transition along there. And let's see, a little bit of highlight right along the top of this. Let's just add a little bit of highlight here. Nice, some subtleties, right? So subtle little blendings that kind of make your paintings really stand out. And yeah, our bird, we got a parakeet here. Oh, if y'all can't see, I know, like, I had to change a camera position recently because people have been complaining. So I just got to make sure that, where can I stand it? Okay, so I have to be all the way over here that you can't see it, standing right in front of it. So I think right here where I'm working from is pretty good. Yeah, you can see from there. Okay, cool. Let's see. So what's going on with this baby's arm right here? So the baby's arm, I think there could be a little shadow right where this piece kind of meets. These pieces meet. So I don't want to make it too dense of a shadow. So we're gonna just add a little bit of our burnt umber. Lighten up with yellow ochre, burnt umber. So burnt umber is like a darker brown, and then yellow ochre is like a yellow, but it's like a very it's a brown yellow. Yellow ochre is a brown yellow, and I think together they help to create a good shade. It's not too. It helps to create just enough of what I'm looking for, which is like a little transitional color. Not too dark of a shadow. Just enough. And here we go. So creating the roundness of the arm. I think the top of the arm has a little too. This arm looks a little too cylindrical. So I'm gonna find a way to gotta figure out a way to blend that around. It just looks too straight, you know? It just doesn't look natural. So let's see, how can we make this look a bit more natural? That is the trick of the day. Let's grab a little bit of yellow. I think I see some yellow. See some yellow here in the arm. So if I mix some yellow, I think I could probably capture a little bit more of the a little bit of yellow and white. Let's go yellow, white, pink. Try to blend this in right in this area here. There's just these little subtleties. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's actually fairly decent. And we're gonna go just a little bit of crisscrossing into the bottom of the arm just to capture some of these little like reflective surfaces. Because I think when I think of a baby's arm, you know, I think like every little like part of the baby, there's like, you know, some sort of fold, like baby fat fold that like, you know, there's like a little fold of a baby fat that reflects just light a little bit differently than the rest of the surface. So I think if you can capture that, it's important. But regardless of that, let's keep going. We're gonna blend this area, try to reduce the redness of this section here, and then, you know, just get it down here. And I think, let's see. Yeah, we're pretty good. We're doing good right now. I can just blend this up. I can keep this pretty, you know, I want to keep it some looseness as I'm painting here. Keep some looseness. That might be a little too much, right? That looks like he's got a tan, like a really rough tan. So let's go ahead and find just the right shade here. Now I won't always spend as much time trying to just get the right color. But, you know, some pieces you do getting the right like hue, but some pieces, you know, you put in a little extra time just so you could practice seeing, you know, that difference, that subtle difference there. Maybe that's a little too much, so I don't know. How will we modify this? Let's see. We'll go down like this. How do we modify this? Too much. Let's modify. Do some crisscrossing of our colors here. Let's go crisscross here, and then crisscross on our way up. Crisscross into these shadows. Crisscross right there. When I say crisscross, so this is actually a technique I learned from some guy on Instagram. I can't remember his name. I meant to look it up the other day. But basically what he does is he like takes his paintings and he just like, he goes into them and he just like, he uses a much smaller brush. Like he uses a brush like this. He uses a brush like this. Let's look at the size of these two brushes, right? He uses a brush like this one right here. He uses a really tiny brush, and then he just hey, take care, Tarika. He just like crosses across the entire face and body and just creates this amazing, beautiful texture. But I won't go into a brush this small. I won't use a brush that's small for this. I think it does a good enough job when it is even big. But more importantly, I think more importantly than the fact like what size brush, it's I think the effect, knowing what type of effect it gets. And the effect that I go for mainly is like a just like look at the natural skin, right? Just like flesh, natural flesh skin color. So here we go. We're gonna go right into here, and we're gonna blend in. We're gonna blend in the shape of the leg here. And go right into here. Go right up to the toes. And now that looks a little bit too distinct. So let's try to find a good little difference here. I'm gonna use some of this color to round it out. And right now we're actually getting, more into the details, but just round that out a little bit. And there we go. These feet are looking okay. Let's see how we can add to these feet a little bit. I don't need to make it like to look too realistic, but I do want to give it a little bit more oomph. I'm not trying to be a professional foot painter. However, you know, if you capture the details just right, sometimes yeah, sometimes it's good to have just a little bit extra oomph. So if anybody has any questions, you know, I hope I'm at least giving the details of all the things that I'm doing. I think that's the most helpful thing I could do. Let's see. So we're gonna go like this. We're gonna just add a little pocket of highlight here. A little pocket of highlight coming around on this toe. We're gonna add a little bit of pocket of highlight coming up. Don't need to get too detailed on the feet here. It's not, you know, not that crucial in my opinion. Which, you know, kind of frees me up to just play with the paint that's here and have a little bit more freedom as far as how it's painted. You know, keeping it loose. Here we go. The shape of the foot looks a little weird. And I meant to do this before, but I need to blend this up a little bit. So I need to bring this up pretty much like right around there. So let's see, let's find this good color here. I'm gonna just blend up. Let's go blend this up here. And here we go. I'm gonna go just add these colors around there. And I like how the purple is standing out here, so we're gonna actually keep this like line of purple here. And then let's start fixing up this green. I think as far as the baby goes, I mean, baby's got some good details. A little bit, you know what? Back here needs to disappear a little bit. So let's see. Back here. Back where? Back here. Where's back here? Back over here needs to disappear just a little bit. Let's get a little bit more brown. A little bit of this umber. Finding just the right level of shadow just back into here. Let's see. Just ever so subtly creating this area. And then, you know, kind of allowing it to be a part of the painting here. How's that look? Yeah, there's some good shadow right there. The shadow of the arm, the reflection of the arm. And here's the child. So actually, you know what? Before we move on to the big space of the clothing, which I've waited till now to paint because I don't feel like it's as, you know, important. I gotta tighten up the face here. So there's a couple details here that need to be a little bit softened. And you know what? As the artist, I do have the the creative liberties of interpreting what I'm seeing, right? And although I don't see total like huge amounts of red on the front of the baby's face, why not? Babies have fun faces that are just red. But let's see, how do we go about this? We're gonna add, where can we cross these pinks here? All right, so this is a good spot. Add a little bit of roundness here so that, you know, I want to make the baby's face not look as rough, but I still want to capture some of this like level of baby fat. That's kind of cute. All right, so let's go up here. A little bit of cute baby fat. And this little crease on the front is okay. Maybe if I go into here a little bit, go right into the lip, the top of the lip right here. I'll probably need to get a smaller brush if I don't want to get in trouble by adding too much of this along the front lip. Ooh, that's a little too much. Let's see how I can get this down a little bit further, just to round out the face here. Round out the face. Got a little baby face. Little baby face. And soften right here, right around the front of the cheek here. Come up here. And let's see. Okay, cool. Now this one, let's grab a little bit of a yellow ochre. Let's try to blend our yellow ochre here and just find little subtle shadows. Maybe that's too much. Yeah, that's a little too much. Blend it down a little bit more. If so here's an interesting thing. Here's the thing. If anyone ever wonders like how I get some of these like tones, because I keep an open palette. My palette is open in the sense that I just add colors, or, you know, whenever I see them. I don't necessarily like a closed palette versus an open palette is basically where you're choosing between keeping a limited number of colors versus keeping your palette open to like every color. And they both have their benefits. And they both have their disadvantages. And you could create just things that are just as beautiful with both. But of course, it depends on what you get used to, how you choose to paint. Excuse me. Let me see. So, some good shadow around her face, right? A little good shadow. We're gonna go around like this. So add a little bit of these highlights, or these create some shape on the face. Like, I don't know really what this is and why this little part is here. Maybe the angle of the light, definitely, but I like to make this more cohesive. I feel like it's just too different. Like, because of the way the lighting is, I'm just wondering, should I blend these areas in a bit more? There's something about this color that makes me feel like she's got like a mask on. But how do I bring it together? How do I bring this together? Let's see. Just trying to find the best way to bring this together. It's gotta be, let's see if we can find like a good yellow, like a good shade of yellow here. Maybe a good shade of yellow will help. Like a light yellow. Let's go like this. Let's just go into the top of the forehead here and just kind of bring this down. It's a little crisscross motion. A little crisscross motion right along the top of the head here. just gotta make sure that the color is not so different. I don't mind the color vibrance, but you know, I want to create some cohesiveness in different areas. Maybe add some into here, into the cheeks there. Give it a little golden glow, and then just crossing across there. And then let's go maybe in the front of the cheek, just hints of yellow, just popping around the face, just to give it some extra glow. And then really blending it. Let me see if I could blend in with this. Just blending in this section a little bit to reduce the... Is that working? You know what? That is. Yeah, that's working a little bit. Let's go, we're just going to go around and kind of reduce the shadow. You know what? I also think that the shadow around the... like right here, here's a challenge, right? So, if you're making this round shape, aka the baby's cheeks, and you make this part really light and this part really dark, it can kind of create confusion because it looks like, you know, it's like so round, but there really is like a really subtle transition of color there, rather than a you know, really like a darker edge. So it's really important to know how to paint a sphere or cylinder when painting a face. Because sometimes the easiest solution is just knowing, like, okay, well, I know this is round and I have a really big highlight here. Why does it look wrong? Oh, because I have, like, you know, certain, like, I have like a really dark area where it shouldn't be, and a highlight where it shouldn't be. And then you just have to figure out a way to blend those two, and I think it really helps. All right, well, that's helpful. I do like this transition now. It's a much more subtle transition and not as distinct as it was before. So we're gonna keep going like this, like these hints of yellow. Feels kind of natural. Maybe a little bit too painted, but I don't know. We'll leave it for now. It almost looks a little too realistic for me. But let's go ahead and paint in these hands. So I've been avoiding these hands for a little while now because I wanted to, but let's go ahead and establish our detail in our hand here. And we're going to go a little web right there. Let's go across the top of this hand. And let's go across the top of this knuckle here, which is pretty much like right around the same spot. Chubby baby fingers. Let's go across the top of this finger. This finger's got a little bit more length than the other ones. And let's see how we can tighten up this. The question right now is, do they look like fingers? Do they look accurate as far as the shape goes? Because I will tighten them up, but for now I just got it. Yeah, they're kind of funky fingers, but let's go ahead and start adding certain colors to them. We're going to add little highlights. You know what? Let's start with a shadow area, but before that, we've got to get into our purple to shape out the finger. So hopefully you can still see the feet right now. We're going to go in the shadow here. And we're going to go right into here, right into there. So now's a good time for my handy dandy ruler. So why do I use a ruler? Oh, I gotta finish this baby's ear. Let me do the ear real quick. I'm gonna use a finer brush for the ear. I'm actually gonna use my Rosemary Co. This is a Series 272 brush. And just a different brush because I want to capture, like, you know, this brush is less worn. Therefore, I can, you know, do these specific details that I need to do. So let me go into that. We're going to capture some detail here. Let's go with some detail. Let's get some details. We'll go with our pink. Go with our pink yellow. We're just going to come over the top of the ear. And you can see the ear, which is good, right? You don't need to see the... So we're going to come around there. And now we can come around this side. You know, ultimately, you just want to, like, give it the shape. Give it the shape transitions. Add the highlights where you can. So we're gonna add a little bit of white. Actually, you know what? I might as well use some of this blue. I'm gonna add blue into the baby's ears. So we'll come around here and add this blue. Just for a transition color there. Add a little bit of blue and blend this down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Blend it down. This will be green, and then here we go. So go like that. Go find, we're going to add a highlight right into here. So right along the edge here, we're going to come up. Bam. And then add a little highlight right here. Pretty much touches the ear. And then a little highlight along the ridge. This part of the ear right here. We're going to clean off this brush. I don't know if the grain's necessarily working. The grain almost feels random, but maybe, you know what? Let me add some strokes of green maybe. Let me just add some strokes of green and see how it turns out. So actually I'm going to add a couple strokes of this along the face. It kind of gives it this cohesiveness. So we're going to go along the baby's eyes right here, and let's just add this in. How's that look? Ah, that's a cool highlight. I like it. Nice little highlight. And then we're going to highlight up into the eyes. It needs to be a little bit chubbier. A little bit of a chubbier highlight. There we go. And let's bring in some white into this. Just along the top of the ear. And let's see how we can make this. Just a little highlight right there. We'll bring this around the nose too. I think we can add this into the nose. I'm gonna go into the nose here. We're just gonna add little bits and creases. Let's do that. Just a little highlight coming around. Let's bring a highlight coming around the front of the nose here.
Hey, Simba. Hi, Simba.
I might have to blend that down. I don't like it on the nose.
Hi.
I don't mind it on the rest, but the nose, not gonna work. So let me grab this pink. You know what's great? All you need to know, all I know is that, you know, this color is wet. It's white, like an off green white. So all I need to do is just take a little bit of a darker shade of pink and find a way to blend it in, blend it with the white. But if I take I need a darker shade because, you know, this is so bright that
What do you want, Simba? What do you want?
not bad. Okay. Let me see how we can work this the nose now, or the ear. So we've got this like natural color going on for. Got this nice natural little color going around the side of the ear, and I think this part can just blend. Let's see how this part can just blend up, right? Create a little thing right there. And there we go. And here we go. So this, let's add in a little bit of highlight into here. And then a little bit of highlight right here. All right, and how can we make these transitions feel a bit more natural in the ear here? I'm gonna need another brush. That's why it's helpful to have a lot of different brushes. So I need a nice, like, thinner brush. So this is a thinner brush, and I think I can get like a nice effect on the ear. Just enough. Oh, this brush is really getting rough now. It's getting rough. I don't know if I could use it for this part of the process. Let's see. What's a good brush? Is this one good? This one might be good. No, you know what? Not this one. Maybe this one. This one's probably good. Okay. So what I got to do is let's see if we can add variety of color into her ear. But I don't want it to, like, you know, the thing that's hard about the ear is that there's so many like gaps and crevices and like there's so many smooth transitions. So I'm not exactly like a pro at painting ears, but I will. I think it just really comes down to finding those transition areas. And let's see, we're gonna go into here. You know what, maybe it is good to have nice, dark, crisp shadows. I just don't want the baby's ear to look like too shadowy, you know? To be too dominant as far as all the other characteristics go. Maybe it's okay. Let's see. Come around here. Yeah, I think this shadow right in here. Let's do a little. See, I think the big issue is that so much of the face is like I don't have too many hard shadows at the ear. If I add this really dark value in here into her ear, it's not going to look right. So I need to find a way to make it look more natural. So let's go to yellow ochre. I'm just going to find a way to blend down this. Let it be there, but not so distinctly. Let's see, so a little roundness right there. You know, my challenge right now, I'm just thinking, like, how do I make these ears not stand out too much? I don't want, people to look at them and think, oh, the baby's ears, right? Like, I don't want it to be so defined. So I got to find a way to kind of like, I think there's to make it just like not stand out too much. And I'm looking at it and I feel like it just stands out a lot. So what's the trick here? What is the tactic? It's got to flow with the rest of this painting. And if I can't capture that, that's the goal here. So let's just see right like this. If I can blend in some of this a bit more. If I could bring this up a little bit, bring it down. Maybe reduce the overall value of it. I think I might be able to do that, right? We'll try to reduce the overall value of it, and when I say reduce the overall value, I'm using like darker colors. I know this is a wet color. I know this color's wet. It's a pink. So if I blend in just the right darker value, it'll help me just create the effect I want, which is ultimately to make this stand out just a little bit less here. These shadows have to be a little bit less dense. You know what? That actually looks like a good natural ear. So where do I need it to connect? There's a couple places that it needs to connect so it doesn't look like disconnected. So this place, connect it right there. And, it needs to have just enough detail to where it looks, like an ear. But not so bright that it kind of takes away from the rest of the painting. And I think we're almost there. I think this ear right here just needs a little bit of more subtlety. So we're going to get a little bit more subtlety here. You know, I could totally try to match what's happening in the image that I'm seeing, but I think painting wise, you know, if you have the option to help the viewer not get lost in the detail, you know, you gotta make the effort to help the viewers see what you want them to see, you know. You do get the option to make those decisions here. If I make the ear disappear just a little bit, that's okay. All right, you know what? We're gonna add this. Let's just reduce the highlight of this ear here. It still stands out a lot. Is that better? All right, cool. Looks like a natural ear. Very good. All right. So how do we do this now? Still got to work on these hands. So what do we do with these hands? I'm going to use a smaller brush for the hands because they're a little bit more delicate here. We're going to grab our pink and some white. Let's see how we can modify these hands to do some stuff. So we're going to go around here. We're going to go right along the top. You know what? Now that I'm no longer working on the face, I feel like I need to raise this bar a little, this canvas a little bit. So I'm gonna bring this up. I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. I'm gonna raise this up as well, which is great. The great reason for having a, you know, a easel, because I don't want to be straining. So, you know, this is a great easel for, like, it goes up to 34 inches, so as high as 34 inches. So, you know, you're going to be able to fit some pretty good sized canvases on this. But right now, I want to focus on these hands. And if, you know, I have to, like, bend down to do the hands, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. So, for this session, I got to raise the bars a little bit so that I can work on the hands without discomfort, which is basically, you know, me bringing it to a height that pretty much like around eye level, right? Or not eye level, but just workable level, where my arms naturally kind of fall. So just capturing some of the details here, just boom, you know, just coming around, boom, giving the arms some shadow or some highlight shadow. Like, I know that if I used the lighter values, so like closer to higher values, closer to white, on top of the hand where the hand shines, I could start to create form, right? I could start to create some shape in the hand that is going to make it look really natural. Let's go like this. So we're going to go around here. So this is going to come up like a angle, and that's going to come down like an angle. Let's get some more of this color, and we're going to bring down how this knuckle comes up like so. Comes up from like around there, and just studying this little kid, this little child. All right, and then right here, so like this. paint it across. Get this, come around, capture a nice little round shape right there. Still looks kind of clunky, but we will find, still kind of clunky, but we will find the right, we will eventually find the form of this. Let's see, so let's go around here. And let's go. Let's find a little bit of our darker tones, our darker values, which will be like, you know, right under the fingers. And let's go in here, and I'm going to add top of the finger right there. And we're going to go for some darker reds to blend up to our thing right here, into our finger. And here we go. So I'll come like this, come around, and find a nice natural shape of the hand here. And here we go. So and we're going to come around here and find this, blend it up and around. And now let's see about finding a more subtle transition in these hands here. So we're going to find a nice subtle transition here because we need to. So this part is a little bit too high in value. We're going to add a little bit up in the knuckle, maybe a little bit of a highlight right into here, just to create some more natural transition, which we've been capturing for other parts of our painting, which means we kind of have to do it for this, otherwise it's going to look too different. And let's make this, the color of these hands, a little bit more natural. Let's do, try to find this. shape. Let's go like this. There. I think currently the fingers kind of look like, still kind of look funky. The shape of this one's kind of funky, and this one up here's a little goofy. So how do we work these fingers? Let's go. How do we give it a more natural look? Just gotta work them, right? You just gotta keep working them until you get it. We're gonna add a little highlight to the tips because there's fingernails. Let's just add some more of this color to the tip of the fingernail. Just little white tip fingernails. That's it, right? That's how you got to do it. Just little white tip fingernails. Maybe a little bit more than that, but just baby fingernails. And then let's go find some of this in the other hand, this look here too. We're gonna add this highlight along the front of this right here, along the top of the thumb here, which is right going down. We're down along the top of the thumb, little crease right there, a triangular crease, a baby fat fold right here. I don't actually even know if it's baby fat. It's probably actually, you know, even adults have this little crease. We're gonna find a nice little triangle shape right here. Nice little triangle shape. Another little triangle shape right here. A little rounded shape. And then let's go right there. This knuckle is going to come around and just kind of like dominate this little area. Let's see. Okay, so we've got some good little colors on here. But here's what happens when you paint a lot of this like fairly realistic. You kind of got to blend it all together. You know, you got to find a way to put it all together and make it cohesive. You can't really slack on anything. You know, there's like a feel to this whole painting right here, right? And if I was to say, okay, the arm's gonna be like this, and then this arm's I'm gonna leave like this, like I can't leave this arm like this. You know, I can, technically, right? But I'm not going to. You know, it's got this whole feel of just like this brushiness. So in order to make it cohesive, I do have to spend some extra time to do it to everywhere. So that's what we're doing now. That is what we're going to be doing. It's going to make it cohesive body of painting here. how does that happen? Let's go, let's go find some of these colors. I need to match some of those colors. So I think it's gonna be helpful to have some yellow pink, yellow ochre pink. And let's go find this blending down of this section here. So get some of the knuckle right across. Just increase the highlight of it, right? Just to increase the value. Give it a natural skin tone. And then this one, we're going to come around like this and just bring this down nice and natural. We're going to come down like that, and then this side, you know, we're going to bring this along the top. Oh no, wait. No, this one, she needs to go even a little bit higher here. This one's going to come a bit higher as well. And then this one, we're going to go boom. Pretty much come around. And then reduce the shadow of this knuckle here. And there we have it. So I do want to bring in a little bit of, you know, between the fingers. We're going to find some values between these fingers. And then we're going to make it feel more natural. But I need to use a nice thin brush here to capture this area. So go right up into there. Maybe even more, exaggerate this angle a bit more. And then we're going to come around like this. And then just the ever so slight and how's that looking? Definitely got some work to do, but it's getting better. Alrighty. I feel a lot of it feels pretty natural. You know, the baby fingers definitely need some work, but the rest of the painting feels pretty good. I like it. Let me see if I can give this a richer purple color here. So I'm gonna throw this in some oil right now. I'm gonna give it a nice rich purple color. And the way I'm doing that is just by layering it with another layer of purple. Nice, dense, rich layer of purple here. There we go. I'm just increasing the spreadability with our oil. We dipped it in oil, which makes it a little bit smoother. I think this is where the real wonder of oil paint comes along, is when you start to do this part. You know, you start to put on the extra layers of of paint over the initial layer, and it just adds so much more of a vibrant look. It's so much more vibrance to your painting. Let's go up in here. I'm just going to bring this down. And here we go. So bring this down, bring this over, go around. You know, I'm going to use a thinner brush here. I'm going to just.
Oh, pretty good, right? Yeah. Yeah, I know. Do want to, but I stayed with that too.
There we go.
Yeah, I had a therapy appointment as a child, so I did it in bed, and I got up and made a coffee and brought it back to the bed. And I was watching Netflix in bed. It was.
And then here we go. I'm just going to keep bringing these colors in.
Yeah, I do. Me too. Maybe it's the hot weather. Yeah. Oh, right, Craig's. Oh, how's that going? That's the little white one. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about it too, leaving the house. It's nice. Yeah, I know. I don't have to, but I like going to. I haven't seen you in a long time.
So here we go. We're going to bring
That's
this
true.
purple. Nice, beautiful purple to just sink into everything.
Okay, good. Alright. What time should I go over? Okay. Okay, yeah. Right. Okay. I should get my little break. Put on any makeup or anything.
And here we go. So I'm going to bring this down. It's purple color, boom.
Okay. Well, change clothes.
Spread this nicely around here.
Okay. I'll see you soon then. Okay.
Probably should be using a flat brush for this. This is a filbert brush, which, you know, the filbert brush doesn't really give you a good opportunity to get into corners, but it does help you create some good clean edges. So, you know, just gotta choose what you're, gotta pick your poison. Go up into there. I might even just brush away at the hand, shape it a little better. Dab it over here. We will eventually, you know, modify these these hands again. But let's just go ahead and make sure that we get a nice dense layer of paint here. Nice dense layer of paint. Let's go with this. I might have used a little too much oil, so it's gonna, you know, you're not gonna have like the super flat surface, but you will have a beautiful painting. And then on another episode, what we're gonna do is we're going to let's see, how's her shoulder looking? Yeah, we can break the shoulder a little bit, but
Scout, you hungry? We're with the cats. Solstice. Something. The viewers know it's summer solstice.
I don't know if they know. All right, so we're gonna clean off this brush. This brush. I don't need this brush anymore. But at some point, I am thinking like, you know, we're gonna go over the surface. We're gonna add some details. We're gonna add. Yo, Amizu, what's up, man? We're gonna go into some details. Once this paint dries, I don't know how long it's gonna dry because it's very oily. It's a very oily surface right now, and oil tends to take a little bit longer to dry compared to mineral spirits. So there's that. What I mean by that is there's a way to thin your paint, right? There's two ways. Either, and when I say thin, I mean make it easier to spread, right? Because if I want to cover large areas, but you know, I don't need to add thick layers of paint to cover large areas. There's two ways. Either use mineral spirits, and you know, if you're an artist, you already know this. If you paint with oil, you already know this. So, you know, don't feel like I'm trying to, you know, I'm just reminding or sharing with people that don't necessarily know yet. But there's two ways to thin your paint. And by thinning the paint, you make the spreadability. Actually, there's three ways. I'm going to share three ways, right? One, because oil paint, it usually comes in like a buttery texture, a thick butter, like a thick room, slightly harder than room temperature water. Either you have mineral spirits. So mineral spirits are chemicals, by the way. So mineral spirits, traditionally, they use turpentine, but now they have mineral spirits, which are odorless. And basically, it's a clear liquid, so don't put it next to your beverages. It's a clear liquid, totally easy to get mixed with something that you might drink. So, you know, don't put it next to your clear liquids. And it's odorless too, so you can't even tell if it's a chemical when you put it close. But this thins oil paint, and it makes it dry real fast. Like, pretty much if you take a bunch of this mineral spirit and you put it in oil paint, mix it with oil paint, it's going to thin the paint, it's going to help you spread, and it's going to dry pretty much like overnight. The other way is to use use actual oil, right? Like, who'd have thought? Oil plus oil paint is going to make it thinner. Well, what's great about this, when you use mineral spirits or something, you need a container that is totally sealable, because you don't want it, you know, ever spilling or whatever. And this has like a rubber seal in it. I think it's rubber, maybe it's plastic, I don't know. But you know, you got to be able to put it on and seal it, and it does a great job. My cats have knocked this onto the floor a couple times without spillage, so I can vouch for the benefit of having this over glass, a glass jar. But I do also have a glass jar that's fallen, and it hasn't spilled. So, you know, whatever works for you, right? You got cats, you got dogs, just babies, something to consider. The third way, which I don't really use often, but you know, once in a while when I feel like it. Let me see if I can even find it. I don't usually have it handy. I'm gonna say Gamblin. Here we go. It's this. So Gamblin solvent-free gel. So with Gamblin solvent-free gel, you don't need mineral spirits or oils. This is a medium that allows you to spread the paint a little better. Now I will say this is not as effective as oil and not as effective as mineral spirits, but it does help you spread the paint. So, I think this is slightly less spreadable. So it depends on what you want to do, right? It depends on what your goal is, but it is helpful and it helps spreadability. So let's actually read what it says. Gamblin, solvent-free gel, oil painting medium. More possibilities, less compromise. Solvent-free gel increases flow and transparency, has moderately fast drying rate, and increases gloss. Use in moderation with oil colors, no more than 25% by volume. There we go. Más posibilidades, menos riesgo. El gel sin solventes aumenta el flujo y la transparencia. Tiene un nivel de secado moderadamente rápido y aumenta el brillo. Debe usarse con moderación en las pinturas al óleo, no más del 25 del volumen. Plus de possibilités, moins de compromis. Le gel sans solvant augmente la fluidité, la transparence et la brillance et possède un temps de séchage moyennement rapide. Mélangez avec parcimonie à vos couleurs à lui, pas plus de 25 du volume. There you go. 3 languages: English, French, Spanish. So if you didn't understand one of those, I don't know. Honestly, if you didn't understand what I was saying because I'm just making up the words by pronouncing the letters, I understand. So probably not your fault, all my fault for not knowing those 3 languages. But, whew, all right. Let's we've got some good dimension here. Got some good shapes. I think right now, baby's looking okay. Its face is cute. Before we get back into the hands, let's clean off this brush here. Let's clean off this brush. And we're gonna go, let's see how we can use this really thin brush here. Oof. Really thin brush. I got this green right now. Why is it so easy for me to get distracted? Maybe I can use this green right now to paint in some of the details of our top here. And then we're going to take a little break. Because too much painting at once can be, draining. But I want to take a nice dark green blue. So we're going to grab our green and we're going to grab our ultramarine blue. We're going to find a shadow color. Ultramarine blue, green. And I want to find some shadows into this piece right here. So let's go right up in here, and we're going to create this little shadow right up in here. Right up into the toe. And we're going to come right over here, and let's go. Probably use a smaller brush. It's okay. You can already see the shadow there, so I'm not going to spend too much time right there. But I do want to find this shape right here, a little shadow right over here. Let's find this color. And we're going to come into this section. Oof, that's a lot of paint right there. I'm going to come into this color right here. This brush is way too big for what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it anyway because that's what I'm feeling right now. I feel like just using a big brush to start to craft in these shadows. I know another artist, some other artists might get mad at me for doing this. They're like, what are you doing? That you're capturing detail. What are you doing with such a big brush? But I'm just gonna use it because why not? Why not make a couple artists a little angry? So here we go. We're gonna come around. This is a shadow. Just kidding. Why would you make an artist angry? And then come into here. There's a little shadow here, but you know what? I don't feel the need to add too much detail. There's a little bit of a shadow right along the top of this here. I don't want to get into the nose too much. So we're going to come around like this. And there we go. We're going to add some shadow right along the bottom ridge here. Let's go right like that. Some shadow right there. Make this look more like a shadow here. I'm going to go boom. Just blend this color into the rest of the space right here. Let's give it a shadow look. You're totally triggered, Omizu. Omizu says he's triggered. Uh-oh. Can't trigger Omizu. Oh, all right. How long have we been working on this? I've probably been working on this maybe 20, no, not quite 20 hours. I think maybe like 10 hours, if anybody's, probably been working about like 10 hours on this, in case anybody's wondering. Everybody always wonders, right? How long, that's like the biggest one. How long did you spend on this piece? How long did you spend on this piece? And here's the canned answer, whether you're an artist or whether you're now and you want to know, or if you're just curious, like what a canned answer sounds like. But it's a good canned answer though, and it's the truth. And honestly, I just feel like there's not really a better way to answer that question. The true canned answer is like, well, I guess there's a couple ways to share this response, but it's like, I might have spent only 10 minutes on this painting, but the fact is that it took me either years or hours or months, or maybe even weeks, right? Like every artist is different. Not every artist has spent the same amount of time, but it took me hours or weeks or months to pick and choose artists that I like, to study and understand and learn from. And there's just all of these other factors that come into play when you're trying to consider, you're trying to wonder, when you're asking about, the artist. So you're wondering about artists. The artwork, right? This piece might have taken hours, but there's been a lot of other projects that have taken many, many hours that have led to this one painting. All right, and let's see, how do we go about the rest of this? There's just so much in this painting, in the fabric. I do not like painting fabric. One day, if I ever hire assistants to paint for me, I will definitely hire assistants to paint fabric. I mean, Why not, right? Hire someone to do the work that you just like are not good at. And you know what? Here's the thing. Someone out there, there's definitely someone out there that loves to paint fabric. There's someone out there who's so good at it, so talented, so amazing at painting fabric that they would love for someone to pay them to paint fabric. Anyway, there's my life's ambition is to have assistants paint fabric for me. No, I'm just kidding. That's not my life ambition, but if I ever reach that point, when I reach that point, when I reach the point of having assistants, I will have them help me paint fabric. All right, so what's cool is we can actually start to see how some of the fabric is going to start to come together. and that is awesome, right? That is fantastic.
I'm out of here.
You're out of here?
The solstice pagan celebration. We're going to have an orgy.
All right.
Drink lots of wine.
Okay. All right, see you.
Luck
Bye.
for painting.
Thank you. Later. Emmett does all the heavy lifting of studying his favorite artist, so I can just Mizu's with the jokes, the cracking the jokes. Oh, Mizu's joke. Just write your own joke book, dude. All right. What should I do before I finish up? Well, I'm not going to be finished for the day, but let's see. Maybe add some of this shadow coming into here. You know what? This blue. I have so much blue paint right here. Let's just blend this up. There we go. But here's the thing, like Omizu, what you're saying though is like, it's kind of accurate. And not me specifically, but where does everybody get their information from? I get my information from books, from people that studied art for 20 years. And I'm not saying that means I'm as knowledgeable as someone that spent 20 years, but you know, if you get your information from someone that spent 20 something years, you know, you're getting content and information that saves you time. Saves you a lot of time. So I do have to experiment with this area here because, you know, I am seeing that there is a shape here, a form that is being described. So I gotta figure that out. But you know what? Right now is about a good time for a little break. The little fingers. These fingers actually look kind of cute. They look cuter on the computer screen. Because when you get up close, they're kind of like little, just kind of messy. But we'll work on this later. We're almost done though. Once we get this fabric, once we get the hands, the toes, like these babies' feet, we'll actually be pretty good. But you know what? One more thing before I close this off. I want to get this purple nice and deep around the feet here. So right into here, we're going to get the feet. You know, here's what I wonder is when it comes to painting, if I didn't have anything else to do, like if I was living in 1853 aka when Impressionists lived. I wonder if I would still take as many breaks, or if I would actually just like paint through hardcore for the next like 5, 10 hours. I don't know. So I often paint and I'm like, I need a break after 1 hour. And then I think, you know, do all the, would the greats have needed breaks? Could Leonardo da Vinci really go an entire day and just study nature? Could Vincent van Gogh really work an entire day on a single painting, non-stop with just minimal breaks? It makes me wonder. Like I know. What's cool is Picasso actually shares his. A lot of people actually. There's documentation about Picasso's like life, daily life, and he started late supposedly. You know, he would like sleep till late, take a nap, drink some or have some coffee, sleep late, have some coffee, meet some people, take a nap, have dinner, and then like start painting later on. He was like a evening painter. But anyway, Omizu is here. Be sure to check out if you you know, I'm gonna sign off on Amazon here. Those of you watching, we'll be back later. Either today or tomorrow. We will be back at some point. But keep an eye open. We'll be finishing up this painting soon. We only got a couple sections left. I like the arms. I like where the leg is at. I like the hands. Each of these hands definitely needs work. I have to tighten up this arm, and then some final details. Maybe like fix up the shoulder a little bit, and then add some final details in the background. We're not going to leave the background flat. I don't like flat backgrounds. We're definitely going to do something with this background, but you know, maybe a little bit more with the baby's hair. Give it a little bit more hair and details. But overall, we're pretty much nearing completion here. Oh yeah, I gotta fix her ear. We're gonna do something to the ear too. But for now, let's just enjoy what we've got. Let it sink in. Let it become what it is meant to become. And I will close up my paint supplies. Let's talk about a little bit about paint supplies here before we wrap up. So I highly recommend this for anybody getting into oil paint. I can't speak for acrylic. This is probably true for acrylic too, but I can't speak for it because I have never used acrylic. Maybe when I was like, I might have used acrylic once in my entire lifetime, and it might have been years and years ago. But this is an oil paint set, and this is pretty much absolutely, I mean, it's necessary if you want your paints to last just a little bit longer. And this is actually like a multi thing. You can't just get one or the other, right? So this is a sealable palette. This is called a Masterson sealable palette. It's made out of some sort of plastic, I think, or rubber or some combination. And as you can tell, I have a palette in here, and this is a glass palette. So this whole piece is glass palette. Now, why do you want a glass palette? So here it is. You want a glass palette. Let me just demo this real quick. Demo this out. For those of you, you're either, if you're watching this, I mean, you're probably either an artist who isn't doing this and is wondering if it's really worth it, or you're an artist that, or you're somebody who hasn't done this and you're just curious, like what's it take, what is a necessary item, and honestly, I can't find my razor right now. Oh, here we go. Okay. So these are some of the tools that, you know, that when you read it in books, they really say you don't really need it, but you kind of do. It's not absolutely mandatory, but it helps, right? So this is a razor. I'm not going to pop, well, no, why not? So this is a razor, and this is to scrape paint off of glass. Now with oil paint, it tends to stick really heavily, but if you get it onto glass, you can scrape it off the glass, but if you get it onto some sort of plastic or acrylic, you're going to scrape off the acrylic, which is going to totally ruin your canvas. So whatever reason, the science behind it is that oil, you can scrape it off glass, but not pretty much any other surface. Like you can't even scrape it off of, I don't know, certain types of wood, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But glass is the ideal surface, in my opinion. You know, I do think there's other surfaces, like ceramic might work. I've never tried ceramic. I've heard of people using plates and stuff, but I think that's getting a little too fancy. Either that or a little, like Francis Bacon used to use plates, and you can use paper, but here's the thing, you know, if you're not painting every day, or even if you miss a day, this helps a lot. This gives you some extra time to save your paint, to store your paint. I could stick this and cover my canvas or my palette, cover the palette, seal it up, and you know, the paint pretty much, it doesn't stay wet forever, right? Like, but I have had times when I didn't paint for like 2 weeks, maybe even like a week, no, maybe more like a week and a half or a week. And I would just leave, I left my paint in here for like a week and it was still wet. But if you leave it out to air, it's definitely going to dry. Now, not all paints are the same. Some paints dry faster than others depending on your brand. But overall, this will probably give you an extra 50% of time to work with. So, whew, can you believe that I've been talking nonstop for pretty much 2 hours straight? This is a lot of work, by the way, doing live streams. And if we ever get to meet in person, just know that I promise I will not talk your ear off. For those of you that want autographs, or if you want come to a Meet the Artist event or something, or whatever, just know that you don't have to worry about getting your ear talked off. However, the way that streams work, you kind of have to share things. You really do. Now, if only I get my words to sound like a good old Bob Ross. Every word that comes out of my mouth is some brilliant inspiration for people. That would be awesome. Maybe I can do that. But I've already got this format that we've got now, so we'll see. With that, take care, everyone. Thanks for being part of this live stream. And YouTube, if you are watching this, be sure to check out Omizu's live stream. I don't know if he's streaming right now, but just tap his name and go visit channel. But goodbye, everybody.